We keep it real and let the pictures do the talking. I'm Will.
And I'm Jamie, and you're tuning in to Real Silent. On April 12, 1862, Union spy James J. Andrews, along with 22 Union Army volunteers, commandeered the Western and Atlantic Railroad Locomotive General at the Lacey Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. The plan was sabotage: steal a northbound train, destroy tracks, bridges, switches, and telegraph wires, and effectively cut off the Confederacy from the Mississippi River. Ultimately, this would set the stage for the Union Army to capture the critical water and railway junctions of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Just 18 miles from Chattanooga, the general ran out of fuel in Ringgold, Georgia, and the plot was foiled. Andrews and his men were captured within 2 weeks. Charged with unlawful acts of belligerency, Andrews was convicted in a military court in Chattanooga and executed in Atlanta on June 7, 1862. 64 years and 1 day later, filming would begin on Buster Keaton's semi-fictionalized retelling of the Great Locomotive Chase, 1926's The General. Starring Buster Keaton as Johnny Gray and Marion Mack as Annabelle Lee, The General can best be described as an early action comedy film. Keaton directed the film alongside friend and collaborator Clyde Bruckman, and it was financed by Metro's Joseph Schenck. With a final budget of $750,000, The General only made $474,000 domestically. This ultimately led to Buster Keaton losing his filmmaking independence to employment by MGM. So first of all, we've taken a little bit of a break. Had some really important life stuff going on. I had to go, graduate college and whatnot. Will here had to start a new career. So, life takes precedence sometimes. And
The clock waits for no man.
no, it does not. And then you get a migraine and then we got to watch a movie. But, we got some life stuff out of the way. And so here we are. And we picked one heck of a movie to come back to. One that has a whole lot of root in history, both movie history and general history.
Oh,
I'm just gonna say I really didn't know about a lot of the history behind this, and I feel ashamed because I feel like in a couple of episodes I've been like, oh yeah, no, I love history, yeah, great. But in this one, I was just like, I enjoyed the show, and then as I started reading on it, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this is I first saw it and couple of the stills, it's like between Marietta and Chattanooga, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in Chattanooga. What is this talking about? And then I'm realizing that this is a real event. This actually happened.
and I just
Um,
learned that moments before we started recording.
so the movie itself was inspired by a book um, written by William Pittenger, who was a Union Army veteran. He wrote the book in 1889 called The Great Locomotive Chase, which is a movie by Disney of the same name. Um, so basically, what happened is the plan of this was to sever the railway between Memphis and Chattanooga, which at the time Chattanooga was a huge water and railway junction for the South and the North. It connected everything. Today, even Chattanooga is a pretty big connection hub with interstates and the like. I-24 connects here, I-75 connects here, um, 59, 64, US 11, all of these roads that can take you basically anywhere. Highway 27, which is just 5 minutes away from me, takes you from northern Ohio down to Florida. So a lot of history in that. But this was a real plot. There was a spy and Union leader, James J. Andrews, who came up with this idea that we're going to marginally disrupt the railway links in and around Chattanooga. And this was going to be the Union Army's way into Chattanooga and be able to control all of those railway links. Um, Telegraph wires were cut, just like in this movie. Bridges were burned. Um, and more importantly, the general, the train, and the Texas, which were the two trains that were shown in this movie chasing each other, were the actual trains that were used in 1862 during this race from Atlanta to Chattanooga. Um, the plot was ultimately foiled about 18 miles south of Chattanooga in Ringgold, Georgia. Um, all of the people were caught. Um, James J. Andrews was tried in Chattanooga, found guilty of acts of unlawful belligerency, and he was hanged in Atlanta on June 7th of 1862.
What a charge.
Originally, right, unlawful belligerency. You would figure that belligerency itself, but I guess that was kind of the aggravated charge back
Hmm.
then. Originally, they were just kind of unceremoniously buried, tossed in a pit. But now all of the people who were involved in that from the Union side have been buried in the Chattanooga National Cemetery, which is downtown here on Holtzclaw Avenue. Um, the general itself, that right there, the actual train, was housed here in Chattanooga at Chattanooga Union Station until the 60s when the state of Georgia sued the state of Tennessee for it, got it back. And now it is in Kennesaw, Georgia. The Chattanooga Union Station was demolished in 1972, I believe. Used to be on the corner of Broad Street and Martin Luther King Boulevard, formerly Ninth Street here in Chattanooga. So a lot of history with the South, um, and a lot of history that's very, very close to me, actually. So I'm really surprised I'd never heard of this before. Um,
It's all in your backyard.
Literally like, I live 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away from downtown Chattanooga. Um, I do go there often. The company I work for are based in downtown Chattanooga, so very surprised I hadn't heard about this. Uh, Probably my own fault. There's a lot of train history here in Chattanooga. This was actually the Union Station was one of two passenger railways in Chattanooga, the other one being Terminal Station, which is now the historic Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel. Um, but anyway, we'll get into more of the history of these. Um, the movie, The General, it's a 1926 film. It actually just barely made the cutoff on 1926 because it debuted in Tokyo on December 31st, 1926. It's starring Buster Keaton as Johnny Gray, which you know anything about the Civil War, that was, just what do you call them? Johnny Grays, just like Jerry's were Germans and all that. Marion Mack as Annabelle Lee, directed by Buster Keaton and Clyde Bruckman, who was Buster Keaton's, I don't know what you would call him, not necessarily his assistant, but kind of his brain trust, if you will. It was one of his idea men. And it was produced by Joseph Schenck and Buster Keaton. Probably a better way to put Joseph Schenck in this would be the wallet. Um, he didn't have as much creative control as Buster Keaton did. His real control was that he gave money, and boy, did he give money. He the original the final budget for it was $750,000 in 1926 money. Now I have gone through and I've looked up all the changes and everything based on how, in today's money what this would be. That's not a small chunk of change back then, and it's certainly not a small chunk of change today. Um, I believe the original proposal for it was probably $400,000, and it quickly blew up from there.
The
Um,
property damage that happens in this film is
oh,
spectacular. I
so
mean,
so um, yeah. Uh, they originally Buster Keaton wanted to do it here. He wanted to do it in and around Chattanooga and Marietta, and the whole way up through Dalton. Um, he wanted to use the General. He wanted to lease the General from the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis Railway. Um, they found out that it was going to be a comedy, and they said no. So Burt Jackson was the location manager on this movie. He went and he was looking around for other areas. He found an area in Oregon um, that had a more authentic look to the time, because in 1926 they would have had to have done significant changes to around Ringgold and Dalton and the whole area, mainly because of the TVA and all of that
mhm.
that was starting to grow up, to make it look like back in the day. But they found an area out in Oregon near Cottage Grove, Oregon, that largely kind of resembled the way the wilderness that this would have looked like back in the 1860s during the Civil War. Um, they Keaton ended up buying three three vintage locomotives to use as the General, the Texas, and I think another one to be used as the Texas during the scene where they blow it up or where it falls into the river.
Mhm.
Um, so bearing that in mind, we're talking about the damage and accidents and all of that that happened on the set. This is one of the reason that Shank was pretty upset about the way that this turned out. Some of the onset accidents included Keaton being knocked unconscious. He did all of his own stunts. There probably was such thing as a stuntman back then, but Buster Keaton was he was what do you call it?
Man of many hats.
Well, man of many hats. Yeah, he did the physical comedy. If somebody was going to get hit with an overly large hammer, he wasn't going to stop the film and bring in somebody to take the hit. He was going to do it.
Mm.
But he got knocked unconscious in one part. There was an assistant director who got shot in the face with a blank cartridge. There was a train wheel that ran over a brakeman's foot. That was a $2,900 lawsuit, or $51,000 adjusted for today.
That's
I
not
did
enough.
all of No, it's not. No, not at all.
A loss of a foot,
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he lost the foot, but a train did run over it. So more than likely, yeah.
a part of a foot.
Yeah, right. Is half a foot worth 51 grand? Nah, I don't
Mm.
think so. I don't think so. Um, but I did go through all of these numbers, the cost of everything, and I did adjust them because it's kind of important to kind of grasp what we're talking about here. Um, the trains that they were using were wood burners; they were not coal burners,
Mhm.
so they were accurate at the time. At one point, the wood from one of the trains caused fires all over the place, forests, farmers' haystacks. They were paying out $25 per burnt stack of hay, which makes it $443 adjusted today, per burnt stack of hay. There was a large fire that broke out during the filming of a large fight scene. Didn't say which fight scene, but there were a couple. That cost $50,000 to United Artists. $886,129 adjusted. It was big enough that the smoke was so bad the crew had to evacuate to Los Angeles on August 6th due to the excessive smoke. They had to wait for some rain to come through and kind of knock all the smoke out of the air so that they get back to filming.
Wow.
They weren't able to get back in until late August. Um, Again, Keaton did all of his own stunts. These were considered very dangerous because there was no contingency for what would happen if something went wrong.
And a lot of these stunts are, I mean, I'm watching it with bated breath. Like, how did he get out of that one?
And
How
some
does
of
he
them,
keep that great stone face of his, you know?
some of them were not the two biggest ones, the two most dangerous ones are not ones that you would think are like the ones that almost killed him or could have killed him. So there was a scene, and I put the still in here. We'll probably see it pop up here in a little bit, where he's standing on top of the general, or standing on top of the Texas, looking off the top of the general, or at the general. Um, Probably had some kind of apparatus where he put his feet into some stirrups or something, and it held him tight. Maybe the one where there's the railway tie that's lodged into the track.
That's the one that scares me. If he
There was
if
no
he
contingency for if he had missed that, if he mistimed that. They just
they,
slowed the train down.
but even so, I was once driving through a town and it was raining. And the only reason I didn't get hit by a slow moving train was because the car next to me stopped short. So I knew I had to stop and start backing up really quick. And then I noticed there's a train coming, and like the whole the warning arms, they weren't working, no lights. And in that moment, I thought to myself, if I ever get hit by a train, I hope it's a fast train. I don't want to get caught and dragged by a slow train.
Do it quick.
Do it quick.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right because what was that? Why do I think it was an Austin Powers movie where somebody, no, maybe not, somebody's getting hit by something and it's just going painstakingly slow.
Yeah, that was an Austin Powers. It was a steamroller.
Yeah, and it's just going like pain, or even Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Yes,
where the judge is getting, Christopher
you got
Lloyd's getting just slowly rolled over by the
mhm,
steamroller. Yeah, do it quick or do it
very
head
quick,
first,
very quick and head first, please, yeah.
Yeah, so there was no contingency for what would have
No,
happened if he had missed that shot. That was a real, they didn't have some kind of pulley system to get the other railroad tie out of the way. The idea was he was going to stop, pick up the first railroad tie, get back onto the cattle guard on the train, ride it, and then throw it, and then it would knock the other one off.
but it was
That was
caught.
it.
What was it? It couldn't have been planned that it was stuck for a second, is what I was
No,
thinking too.
no,
It just
no. There,
was stuck, and he had to get it out that much quicker.
one take, and their idea to minimize damage on that was, let's just slow the train down.
The contingency was we can market this as a snuff film.
Probably, yeah. I mean, possibly. So that was it. That was one take, and it was okay. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna run in front of it. I'm gonna pick this thing up. I'm going to jump back over onto the train. I'm going to keep riding it. There's going to be another one. I'm going to take it like a javelin, throw it, hit that end of it. It's going to knock it off of the track. I would imagine they probably practiced without the train there a couple of times. I would hope to God that he did.
Fingers
Um,
I hope to have some sort of preparation for something like that. Um,
it would be the smart thing in my
because even if
mind.
not, you could have possibly derailed the whole train, right?
And that's the thing, is that if he had
There's
missed
another
it,
outcome.
it was gonna derail it could have derailed the train. Here's the thing is, and we're gonna focus this in the could,
Mhm.
because obviously he didn't
Yeah,
miss it. It did hit it. We got a great scene out of it. But there were no contingencies for if he failed to dislodge the railroad tie. It could have derailed the train. It could have killed him by derailing that train because he's right on it. He's riding on it. Um, Even if it had just hit the railroad tie and like he didn't throw the other one correctly, or if he, or God forbid, if he threw the other one and it lodged onto the track right in front of him, if he didn't throw it far enough or whatever,
Hmm.
and then he didn't have time to there's so many ifs in that situation.
And those are real railroad ties, right?
They
That he's
were,
using.
yes. Yeah.
So I,
I
I
mean, this was a very strong man.
yeah, for being
The
what, 5'5"?
Yeah, they weren't using balsa wood or anything, like, they were using
Yeah.
railroad ties, and they were using what they had.
And you can
Um,
see when he throws it that it kind of swings back and he kind of goes back. So it does. He it did kind of swing back at him a little bit, and he
so
dodged it.
here yeah, here's the thing. What if he had thrown it and it had gone like that and hit a railroad tie, and he's standing right in front of it, and it hit boom and comes back and just decapitates him?
So many ifs.
So many. The other one being a scene that probably I found it hilarious. This is probably one of the funniest moments in the movie that I personally thought was when he's riding on the connecting rod for the wheel.
Hmm. Oh
Um,
yeah.
Now
Eh,
those things, if you watch an older train, they're not perfectly tied and synced together, like, they don't have all the traction in the world, which is why it took so long to slow these trains down,
yeah.
because they couldn't just hit the brakes on them. That thing would just skid
That's one thing that I noticed in this movie. It really seems like you hit the brakes and the train stops pretty easy.
because they're going slow.
Yeah.
They're staying going slow because that was one thing I was gonna bring up as well, was that, man, like, he hits the brakes and 5 seconds later, this train stops. Number
These trains are
1.
so maneuverable. I was thinking.
Right, he might as well try to drift one. Number 1, they're moving they're moving these things so slow so that they can stop it quickly, but number 2, they're only like, the trains that we see, doing these things, they're only connected to a tender cart.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't have a mile worth of cars behind them, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, it probably was pretty easy to stop them, but not if they were blowing full steam.
Yeah.
So there was some speeding up of the film, some editing to be done in that, some movie trickery as they were able to do it. But no, him riding on those connecting rods, that was a big, you know, if that thing had skipped
Hmm.
and it had burned out, kind of what we would consider a burnout, if the wheel had spun real fast, which those things did do,
Yeah.
he would have been thrown off. Um, he could have been thrown underneath the wheels. He could have
And
been thrown and hit the top of the building he was in front of.
there's a
That would have killed
scene
him.
there's a scene where it does that, where it has no traction, and he has to go out and he has to throw the dirt on it. I'm realizing now that even that couldn't have been staged. Just, I mean, how
No,
did they? What did they do? They grease the track to make sure that it could happen, or they lucked out that. But if that would have happened while he's sitting on it, I mean, shredded or thrown, dead.
it would have yeah, he would have been killed.
So to be
Now
just so dour and just sitting there as it just moves.
the
Eh,
deadpan, just the Leslie Nielsen face while
oh
he's
yeah.
doing it, and yeah, dead. Um, I'm sure that would have been a different look on his face if that would have
Yeah.
happened.
He would have changed
But
expression.
again, they didn't, like, strap him to it. They didn't have, like, any kind of anything holding him to it. It was just, "Okay, he's gonna sit on this thing." Funny scene, he's kinda just forlorn about the fact that his girlfriend's telling him, "Hey, don't come back to me until you're in a uniform."
Hmm.
I get it, and then he's like, "Oh, well," and then the train takes off. That's funny, but my god, man, you could have died.
And I guess,
Uh,
it works for the plot, but I did keep saying, uh, why didn't they just tell him why they wouldn't enlist him? And that's just me, had to be for the movie, so he doesn't know, so that there's the conflict between him and her. But they just said, no, go away. It's like, hey, you serve a very important function for our side already, sir. So thanks
yeah,
for being
right.
an engineer.
Yeah, hey,
Don't
we
send the
need
guy
people
out
running
there.
the train. Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't do that. So he tried and over again. Back to the stunts. One thing that I kept thinking is how many, not just him with that, the bear trap after he gets it off of her foot, but, and then it gets onto his, and then he gets his hand stuck in there. I wondered what kind of bear trap they were using, but I started noticing all the times people clearly injured their foot. And there's the one scene where he bends the change so that they can't progress, and then they spend all that time trying to get it so they can change the track back over and start following them again. And at one part, this guy is standing there, and they move it over, and a guy's foot is caught in there, and I was just like, like, so not just Buster Keaton stunts, but all the times you can see other people get hurt. The two guys carrying, wood, and they fall on their face.
Yeah. It,
You
it
know,
was kind of it was kind of just haphazard would be one way to put it, I would think.
it plays into the
Um,
comedy for sure.
it
Like Looney
yeah, it
Tunes,
does.
like a Merry Melodies.
All of these are reasons on top of the budget why Joseph Schenck was pissed off about this movie. Um, it just kind of seemed like Buster Keaton did not have a very he wasn't attentive, or at least as attentive as he should have been to all of this happening around him. One thing I do want to point out that I noticed, and I had to rewind it like 4 or 5 times to catch the stills, and I caught a few stills of this actor, and I didn't catch their name. But the guy at the recruiting depot while he's trying to
Hmm.
sign up, he looks like Till Lindemann from Rammstein.
Really?
Look
Okay,
right
this
there.
guy here.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I was like, "What is Till Lindemann doing signing him up for the
He really
for the
does.
Confederate Army?" Very uncanny look.
Hmm.
I had to watch it a couple times, and I had to, like I said, pause it a few times to get the perfect screenshot on it.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. Um, yeah, I liked the attentiveness. Buster Keaton thought that he did a good job, not only bringing a little bit of comedy into the role. The canon was one of my favorites.
It wasn't when that was just rolling. I was thinking, it would make sense if that wasn't staged. Was that a real cannon? Did they really fire a cannonball? Did they really just barely miss, or did they have a flash go off and then an explosion properly timed? Because based on that explosion, I'm thinking they should have hit the uh the wood cart, the cart with all the wood.
Ah,
That's when
I
I'll need to look into a little bit more.
I don't know. And given the haphazardness with which other things on this set took
He'd have
place,
probably fired a cannonball.
he probably fired a cannonball out of it. Yeah.
And somehow
Um,
still again another moment of accidental perfection. Yeah.
hey, we got it right in one take. Isn't that awesome? And we didn't blow the barrel up while we were doing it, and we didn't kill the actors or any of well,
Oh,
we hope
great,
we
good
didn't
day.
kill
Let's
anybody.
go to lunch.
Yeah, yeah. Cut, print, wrap, and then Buster Keaton's sneaking off somewhere, drinking a half a bottle of liquor, like thankful that he didn't die.
Such courage.
Yeah, no, man. Just in a massive production too. Um, United Artists at one point during a press release they put out for the film, they said they had 3,000 people on payroll for
Yeah.
this film. And it cost around $400 an hour to make. Um,
Just the scenes with the extras on both sides, the North and South, that final battle. I mean, I was thinking, how many guys do they have here in full,
so
Civil War regalia?
so there were 500. We'll fast forward just a sec on the story, but we'll rewind to kind of give you the idea of who those people were, and how many of them there were. Um, for July 23rd, the scene for the train wreck in the forest, the city of Cottage Grove, Oregon, declared a local holiday so that everybody could go and watch. There were around 3,000 to 4,000 people that were there watching that scene, where the Texas goes off into the river. 500 of them were Oregon National Guard. those Oregon National Guard members, those 500 Oregon National Guard members, also appear in the film as extras for the Union
Okay.
and Confederate armies. So they used actual soldiers that in those scenes with the Union advancing south as Confederate soldiers. So around 500. Maybe not all at the same time. Maybe they
Yeah.
brought in more to make sure that people weren't getting too close to the wreckage. But yeah, um, that was also they just left that. They didn't clean that up. All the bridge and everything, the train in the river, they were like, cool, cut, print, moving on, and left it
In-
there.
okay.
That actually stayed there. It kind of became its own little tourist destination in Oregon until World War II, when they went out and scrapped it for metal so that they could use it in
Wow.
the war effort. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. So this is kind of it's
So for
kind of
15
the
years, it's just like, hey, you want to go check out that
right.
place
You want
Buster Keaton crashed a train into the river?
to yeah.
They didn't clean it
Um,
up, you know. It's still
you
there.
you kind of think of Anchorman,
Yeah.
where they're just walking through the park and they got like the styrofoam containers and the wrappers for the food they're eating, and they're just throwing it on the ground and just walking away from it. You know, you just got to think about like, we'll just
Yeah.
trash this place and it's
Yeah.
fine. You know, what I mean, they're setting fire to the forests and
Yeah.
haystacks, and they're just like, here, take some money, and you're good with it. You
There's
know,
25 bucks.
right? You'll figure it out.
There's almost
Um,
500 bucks in 2025 money.
yeah, and
Sorry for your haystack.
yeah, so you think about other films from the silent era.
Hmm.
We were talking about with Nosferatu, where they had one camera. Um, they had six for the train scene alone. Now, I can only imagine that it's kind of in the Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer. The nuclear blast was done with practical effects, with all of that dynamite that he used to get that. That you kind of want every camera that you can get pointing at this, because you don't want to have to do it again.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine that it was again, Shank. This is part of it that he's PO'd about, is that it's costing
Hmm.
so much money, taking so much time, but also I can kind of see, being like, hey, man, I need every camera I got, because do you want me to have to go buy, you want me to have to go buy another train,
Another train.
or
Or do
do
you
you
want
want
me
me
to
to have to wreck
pick
one of
the
the other ones that
angle?
I bought?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't quite like the way it bounced on that rock. Let's do it again,
Hmm.
or all of those. Originally they came in with three cameras, three 35 millimeter cameras. But could you imagine just the unluckiness of all three of them running out of film at the exact same time?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I can understand wanting to do that. In total, 200,000 feet of film were shot. Um, I don't remember where von Stroheim got with Greed,
Off the top of my
but
that's the first thing I thought of. How long, how many feet was that again? You know, because
yeah,
that sounds
right.
comparable.
And this is kind of it's funny, that we're talking about so many films that tie in with MGM,
Yeah.
and how ultimately these people became beholden to MGM because of the missteps they made with their movies. Von Stroheim, he became beholden to MGM in the fact that he had to turn over control of the movie. In
Hmm.
this film, Joseph Schenck put up who was an executive with MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer. He put up the $750,000 budget for this, and because it did not produce, it did not profit in the way that they wanted it to. Buster Keaton, he became beholden to MGM. United Artists was started in 1919 uh, by Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks. And the whole premise of the United Artists was allowing artists to have control over their own interests and their own artistic, creations rather than being beholden to commercial studios. Um, the unfortunate part about this one is that because he had that kind of control, he was beholden to MGM afterward,
Yeah.
and he lost the independence as a filmmaker. Um, Eventually, United Artists in 1981 was purchased by MGM. So it's just kind of funny how all these things run into either they are Goldwyn products or they became Goldwyn
It
products.
became, yeah.
Um, the Again, something I mentioned to you earlier, but just kind of interesting to do. Filming for this movie began June 8th of 1926, which was 64 years and 1 day after Andrews, the guy who came up with the plot of the locomotive chase from Atlanta to Chattanooga, after he was executed for the events that this film was based on. I don't know if that was a thing, if they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it was only so many days in the year. Had to start sometime, right?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
probably.
I don't know if they, and that's when they started the filming. I don't know. It's kind of an, it would be a little obscure. It'd be like, I want to start filming exactly
Yeah,
64 years after the man is executed.
yeah. Um, I know that in Cottage Grove they had to shut down rail traffic for the duration of the shooting. They came in and they started setting things up. May 31st was when they steamed into town. So they basically brought this city to a halt.
Yeah.
And apparently Buster Keaton was a huge train buff. Um, and that's kind of why this came around. Uh, so maybe he did know about it. Maybe he did know about the dates and everything and what kind of weight was being held on that. Or maybe it was just haphazard as everything else. Who
Yeah.
knows?
He's got oddly perfect timing.
Yeah. So he he also had kind of just weirdness about him on the set. According to Marion Mack, he didn't never really talk to her at the beginning of filming, like unless they were filming scenes together. He just kind of was weird. He kind of stuck with his own little clique of people on the set. Eventually, he did kind of warm up to her, and they did
Hmm.
have a rapport on set, but not in the beginning. Um, it is funny that every Sunday, apparently Buster Keaton was huge on baseball, and every Sunday they would play a baseball game with locals from Cottage Grove, Oregon. They kind of shut down, and cast and crew had a baseball game with them.
Interesting.
I believe I've got a picture in here of him with a baseball glove on. If I don't, I'll find one. Um, Originally, obviously, the book was written by a Union Army veteran, so it was written from the point of view of the Union Army. Buster Keaton decided that people would not be able to watch this movie and see the Confederates as the villains. So he switched the point of view and made it to where it was from the point of view of the Confederate Army going north. Because ultimately, the Confederate Army foiled the plot
Hmm.
and they were the prevailers of this story. So you think about it from the storytelling aspect of it, yeah, the Confederates would be the heroes, so to speak. Um, so the um,
Which is
as
why.
I meant, oh, go
Oh, sorry.
ahead.
No, I was wondering why they wouldn't want, uh, why Chattanooga wouldn't want them to actually do the filming there when, even though it's a comedy, and I know that they were union at the time, but it was about how they won that skirmish, right?
Yeah.
Not the whole war, but a battle that was won in a way, you know. And so they were. It is a story where the South? Are the heroes this time? And so maybe Chattanooga had progressed to the point where that wasn't a factor in the decision making of letting them film there.
So Chattanooga, there was a lot of battle around Chattanooga. This ultimately, I mean, if you go and you look at the battles that happened because of Chattanooga and around Chattanooga, um, Grant coming through and taking over Chattanooga, pushing everybody through Fort Oglethorpe, through Rossville, to the Chickamauga battlefield, which was a huge battle for control of Chattanooga. Controlling the railways, controlling the waterways was a huge point of contention. Um, the Union Army taking Chattanooga was an inevitability that the South just couldn't maintain it. It was so much, it was so far eastern that the Army of Virginia coming down through, that was an inevitability. Now, where we are and kind of where we're blocked off by mountains and all and the river and all of that, we're kind of perfectly positioned to be a stronghold,
Hmm.
but also sort of perfectly positioned to funnel all of that down through.
Gotcha.
Um, so it was really who controlled Chattanooga was going to control the gateway to the South. Um, Holding Chattanooga was integral in Sherman and his march to the sea. Um, Without the Union Army holding this city specifically, they would have never he would have never been able to burn his way to Savannah. Atlanta would have never burned. Now, something funny about the actual general and the Texas and a lot of these railroads, a lot of these locomotives that were a big part of this movie was they were used in the burning of Atlanta.
Mm,
They were pushed in the railways in Atlanta and where they had the munitions depots that were burned. We go forward, what would I say, 10 years after this movie to Gone with the Wind,
hmm.
where we see the burning of Atlanta and the munition depots along the railways. Um, that was an integral part in the turning of the tide of the war. Sherman burning his way through Atlanta and burning all the way down to the sea. Um, the general was damaged in the burning of Atlanta. It had to be restored before it was moved up to Chattanooga and put on display in the Union Station. Um, Still to this day, there is a Confederate um, cemetery here in Chattanooga, not that far away from the Chattanooga National Cemetery. Um, it's actually, I think it's on MLK. It's not very far away at all. Um, but at the time, we're talking 1926, right? So what are we? We're not, I can't do the math, 60, 70, 80, 90. Oh, so we're 60 years away from the Civil War
Yeah.
in an area where it was ravaged. Um, Probably still some people that had to live through that. Probably
Yeah.
some people whose parents had to live through that. Um, when we're talking about war, we're talking about the fact that these things happened. Now, when you look at the end product of it, in my opinion, you're looking at something that they told a faithful story. Buster Keaton, I believe, did a good job of telling the story, while also, yeah, it was a comedy. There were some parts where you look at it, you watch it today, you laugh, but at the time, he was a comedic actor, and the city of Chattanooga, the city of Nashville, the areas, they look at this and they're like, there's nothing funny about what happened here 60 years ago.
Yeah.
It would kind of sort of be going to Germany saying, "Hey, we want to make a movie about Hitler. It's going to be a comedy,
Hmm.
and we're going to do it in the '80s."
Yeah.
even today, that still wouldn't fly.
No, yeah, they're not gonna have, the producers on stage anytime soon.
No, God, no. No way. You know, it just kinda goes to the fact that they were saying, "This is not a laughing matter to us. There's a lot
Yeah,
of history around this." I think that if they would have taken the time to understand the concept of the film, even the fact that he was telling it from the side of the Confederacy,
yeah.
they probably would have been a little bit more receptive to him, doing the things there, maybe not using the actual general.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't imagine that, the actual piece of history.
yeah, I don't know. Um, but again, in the Southern Museum of Civil War and Locomotive History in Kennesaw, Georgia, and it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The General itself, the Western and Atlantic Railroad Engine Number 3 General, is on display. The other train that was used in this, the Texas, is preserved and on display at the Atlanta History Center. So you can go and see these trains today. Um, whether or not the events of the movie accurately capture exactly what happened,
Yeah,
I'm sure there was some artistic license. Johnny Gray obviously never really existed.
yeah.
Um, but these things happen. They happened in and around where we are. Um, now, how well did people accept what happened? How well did people accept Buster Keaton's version of events? Not very well.
Mm.
Um,
A
so the
flop
original,
again.
yeah, it was a flop. Um, it debuted in Tokyo December 31st, 1926. The America debut was set to happen January 22nd of 1927 at the Capitol Theater in New York City. It was delayed because a film, Flesh and the Devil, and I didn't do a little bit of research on that. I didn't do any kind of research on that other than people considered it to be a hit. So maybe that's one we look at here in the future. Um, because it was such a hit, the General didn't debut until February 5th. It played at the Capitol Theater for 1 week and it earned $50,000, $903,000 in today's money. On the final verified budget of $750,000, which in today's money is 13,291,949, it earned $474,000, 264, or 8,405 in today's money. So it flopped.
About
Um,
about a third of what it costs to make. A
uh,
little over, almost
so
half, close to half,
a little bit more than half.
a little more
About
than half.
five. It came about 5 million short of breaking even based on what it earned in the United States. So overall, globally, I believe it made $1 million. But for you to recoup the global money back then, it was not. Let me transfer that to your bank account via the internet.
Mhm.
And it was not as easy to count as it is today.
Yeah,
Because people, it wasn't like international exchange. It wasn't like, well, you're seeing an American movie, so you have to pay for it in American dollars.
yeah.
Just wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
So for the knee jerk on it, it was a failure. Um, critically, it was a failure. There, I think there was only one um, publication that gave it any kind of success. And it was like the Baltimore something. Uh, Variety looked at a theater in which it was playing, said after 4 weeks of record business with Flesh and the Devil, probably the Capitol Theater. The theater looks as though it were virtually going to starve to death this week, and that the General was far from funny and a flop. The New York Times said this is by no means so good as Mr. Keaton's previous efforts. LA Times said the picture was neither a straight comedy nor is it altogether thrilling drama.
I'll admit that it's not hilarious.
No.
There's the slapstick element, and sparingly. Uh, It comes in. It is a little bit mid for that. I understand that critique. There there was something about the movie that I really enjoyed.
I
Um,
liked the not committing to it being just a knee slapper from the beginning of it and the end of it.
yeah,
I
it
liked
had
that
a
there
little
was a
bit of
story.
everything.
Yeah.
And then, he doesn't know that his girl is there until, he's there to save the train.
Mhm.
He's there to get his train back, and that's kind of the comedy element. He's risking his life because he loves that engine, and and then all of a sudden there's the girl who won't talk to him for a whole year because he can't join because they don't tell him that you're a train engineer, so you're too valuable. And there she is, captured by the Union, and he changes the plot a little bit. The only reason he gets back to the train is because, well, look, it's here now,
Yeah.
and so it's that
And also the
falling
assumptions of
into it.
everybody in the movie, like the dad and the brother, her dad, her
Yeah.
brother, assuming that he's not getting in line because he's just too chicken to sign up.
He also
Uh,
doesn't tell anybody anything.
right.
He's as guilty as not telling the father and brother, like, they won't let me sign up and they won't tell me why, as much as the guy who just says, "Get out of line." You
As well
know,
as Till Lindemann
nobody's
is for
talking
not.
to each other,
Yeah,
like,
hey, you run. You're an engineer. We need trains to run, so we can't
yeah,
take you into the army and put a musket in your hand. Okay, I understand that.
well, that
Hey,
makes
aren't you getting in
sense.
line? Well, they told me that because I
Apparently,
work on
I've
the
got
railroad.
yeah, apparently I can't because I'm an engineer for the
Right,
train. And they're just like, "Oh, well, I guess that makes sense. I'm not gonna tell my daughter to hate you."
right,
Right?
exactly.
But then you
He's a
don't have a
coward.
movie. Then you don't have a movie.
Yeah, yeah. So, a little bit of plot point to that, and I understand it. It makes for the, I guess, today in the critical sense of it, we're like, a couple of words here and we would have figured this all out. Those are
Mhm.
the kind of movies that today I hate,
Yeah.
where it's like, my God,
Yeah.
communicate,
Yeah,
please.
exactly.
be be a rational human being and speak. You know,
One thing that makes me think of right off the top of my head, people never say goodbye when they're on the phone. First of all, don't be on the phone in a movie, but especially if you're on the phone with your wife. "All right, I'll get that done."
yeah, yeah,
No goodbye?
yeah. Just yes, yeah. You don't say goodbye in a movie, and you never give out the phone number because it's always 555.
555, yeah.
So yeah, I get it, but I also, like you said, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got the
Mhm.
drama, it's got the suspense, a little bit of a spy thriller to it.
Yeah.
Definite action.
Mhm.
There are the funny parts of the movie. It's a Buster Keaton film. It's going to be funny. Um, you
That
know,
physical comedy.
I don't feel as if it was paced to be any certain thing at one time. I don't feel as if it was completely paced to be a comedy. It wasn't, obviously not an uproarious comedy anyway, because it wasn't paced comedically from start to finish.
Kind of a dry comedy, and maybe just looking at Buster Keaton's face, I figure that's probably the sort of jokes he told, like a dry sort of humor when he wasn't, slipping and falling on film.
The first bit to allude to that would be the picture that he gives her of him in the train, where he's just like,
Yeah.
"There's my train." Very, very dry, very
Yeah,
British comedy. Yeah. And I like that kind of comedy. That's
I
right up
enjoy
my
it.
alley. So, I found it funny for what it was. I found it endearing for what it was. Um, MGM and or United Artists, I'm sorry, not so much. I believe it entered the public domain probably earlier than any of the other films we've looked at so far. It entered the
Really.
public domain in 1954.
Uh,
Um,
We don't want this no more. You can all have it.
Absolutely. It at 28 years after the publication, they did not renew the copyright for it, so it entered the public domain. As such, it was inducted by the Library of Congress into the United States Film Registry in the first year of the preservation of films by the Library of Congress. It was in the first class, along with Gone with the Wind, along with The Wizard of Oz, um, a few other movies as well. But nowadays we look at it and it's the critical success.
Yeah.
People are like,
Hindsight's
wow,
2020.
yeah, and it always is. We look at movies today like Greed, and we look at Nosferatu. Back then it was scary. It was, copyright infringement. It's terrible. How could they do this to the story of Dracula and
I
his
think so
widow?
far
But
what He Who Gets Slapped is the only well-received movie for its time of
yeah,
what we've looked at
hmm but where it was received all the way around on all of the merits.
in its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Lon Chaney and his acting and the director and the pacing and the all of it. Um, it was the only one that was considered to be successful.
Mhm.
The rest of them were pretty much, I mean, Nosferatu to a point where they were like, wow, this is kind of scary. But also the fact that it was a straight rip off of Dracula and they didn't have the right to do that. So that's not successful.
At least in a flop in the sense that the people who made it in Germany, they didn't get to see any of the reward from it
Right, they went out
legally
of business. They went out of business because they were
because of
sued
it.
out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
So still it
pro-
was still a quite a on paper technical flop,
yeah,
even if it did
and
well every other country where it didn't go back to the people who made it.
I think that that might have a little bit to do with the fact that film was not the overall definite medium at this point. You still had theater,
It was still
and
emerging.
right, we were still trying to figure out what constitutes a success as a film. Do people have to be if it's marketed as a comedy and we know that Buster Keaton's in it, do we have to be laughing and doubling over from start to finish for us to like it? Is this his foray into drama? Do we have to be crying the whole time to like it? Is it action? Do we have to be on the edge of our seat the whole time to like it? It transcended several different genre of movie
Mhm.
and created kind of its own, like we were talking about earlier, the action comedy,
Yeah.
created kind of its own where you don't have to be any of those one things at any time. You can be happy, you can be sad, you can be on the edge of your seat. You can feel a whole range of emotions this whole time
Yeah.
and still perfectly understand and grasp the concept of the movie.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like in the term of the MGM exec, the Shank that was funding it, it had to be black and white, one thing or the other, so that we can measure it against the other movies like it, and
Today we'd
that's the
call that
way.
one note.
Yes,
We would call that one note if it was only drama the whole time, if it was only action the whole time, or
right,
just so many jokes, there's no real story, you know?
right.
Um, but I mean, I think that's a good lead in for what this movie reminded me of. Me and my wife were watching it and trying to figure out, and she's the one who came up with it. Jackie Chan.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, we spent hours trying to look on the internet, figure out who else kind of does that full range of emotion, action and comedy, even the slapstick. There were moments where he was like, and I was just like, I can see Jackie Chan doing this. I wonder if Jackie Chan studied Buster Keaton. Is he a fan of this movie? I can see, a young Jackie Chan doing a remake of that movie.
I would
Uh,
love to I would have
Wouldn't
loved to
wouldn't
have
that be
seen
wild?
that.
You know?
Yeah, no, and I like we were talking about earlier, I kinda let you go on that one to see who you were gonna come up with so that I could be like Jackie Chan, but you knocked it out, like, that's it.
Yeah.
Um,
When I
watching
brought
it,
that
that
up,
was the only one
you
I could
threw it
think
your
of.
hands up in the air. It's like it's the only person. It's the only
Watching
one.
it, that's the only one I could think of, like, in today's
Makes his
modern.
own movies, does all his own stunts. Obviously, has to coordinate the stunts because he's the one putting his neck on the line. He's going to make sure it's to his specifications.
Yep.
Comedy. action, a little
Drama,
bit of drama. Jackie
a little
Chan.
bit of love story. Yeah, I
A little
mean,
bit of love story, not too much.
this is Rush Hour,
Yeah.
as it were in the Civil War.
Yeah, it's Rush Hour, is exactly what we were talking about. It's like Rush Hour.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. I would say this is the 1926 equivalent of a Jackie Chan film,
Mhm.
and that let
Yeah,
you
I like
guys
Jackie
figure that
Chan.
out how you. Yeah, no, nothing
Yeah,
wrong
go
with
watch the
that.
movie. Go watch the movie, The General, Buster Keaton. Put tell us otherwise. Tell us what
Yeah,
you think,
give
because
me
I
give me
can't
somebody else.
spend hours
Now
figuring this out.
Now, back we're not talking about other actors back in that day. We
No.
obviously know Charlie Chaplin could have just as easily played the same role, and given it this. I'm not going to say the exact same treatment, but given it a similar treatment.
Mhm.
Um, Known for the situational comedy, known for the physical comedy. Um, Probably could have come up with something just as good. Um, Probably didn't wanna take it on, but probably wouldn't have taken something like this on,
This is
I
a
don't
clear
know.
passion project. This is
Yeah,
something Buster Keaton wanted to make, right? Written,
yeah,
directed, acted. This was his baby,
yeah. This
and,
was his The Room. This was his Tommy
yeah.
Wiseau, The Room, and hated by critics until years later when it became a cult classic, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good, transition out of kind of the the pure dramas that we do. It did have just enough seriousness in it to make it worthy of the story being told. Um, I don't particularly care for movies that are just funny for the sake of being funny.
Yeah,
I like them to have a little bit of substance to it.
absolutely.
Um, Now, not to be said that Airplane is not a piece of cinematic genius. Uh,
Perfection. It's
that
perfection.
that kind of movie we're talking about the satirical where they're
Yeah.
still trying to play it straight on the face.
Mhm.
um that that is a whole different genre in and of itself. I'm talking about more of the what should we say, the not another action movie or whatever they make,
Yeah,
where it's just stupid for the sake of being stupid,
yeah.
and they get cheap laughs out of it. I think this one
Mhm.
kind of makes you have to think about it for a second, especially when the canon. I'm gonna go back to that one. That was the biggest oh crap moment for me, where it's like, okay, he put just a little bit of powder in this
Mhm.
gigantic cannon, and it went. So then he puts an entire powder charge in there, knowing he could possibly blow the cannon up, and then it's bumping and it aims right at him. And I was kind of like, how's he gonna get out of this one? And then the train is
The
turning, so
slight turn. That's
yeah.
I mean, and that's why I was wondering, what did they do? They had to have done there had to be some sleight of hand for that scene. I hope, because yeah, watching it a few times, this week, it really looks like that cannon, with the velocity of an explosion behind it, should have taken out the corner of the trailer with the wood. What's that called again? Me and trains. We're very
The
we
Tinder
know each
cart.
other exist. The Tinder cart, yeah.
Yeah.
But we've never spoke too much. But yeah, I don't know too much about trains. But um, it looks like it should have taken out the corner of that thing at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I really
The amount
hope he
of
didn't fire
danger
that
in
cannon.
filming, yeah.
I really hope he didn't fire that cannon and just get it right.
And just get it right. But it sounds like that's just Buster Keaton's way to just fire the cannon
It sounds
and
like that was
cross
probably
your
the
fingers.
story that yeah, that was probably the story he told Shank out. He's like, "Good job on, the practical effect of making it look like you fired that cannon." And Buster Keaton's like, "Yeah,
Effect?
made it look like it. Right, right.
Yeah.
Also, we ran
Mhm.
over a guy's foot. That's gonna cost you $2,900."
Oof.
Yeah.
Again, again, Yeah, a lot, a lot. So many feet get hurt. That bear trap, was that a real bear trap that latched onto her foot and his foot and his hands and then his foot again?
If we're talking about Buster Keaton, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely it's one that I would recommend everybody going to watch. It's one that I would recommend reading up on because there, like I said, there's a lot of history to this one, ties into the history of the Civil War, and don't take it as South good, Union bad. Take it as the fact that he told the story as it was told, but he
Mhm.
also had to make a movie that people were going to like. And
Yeah.
in this time, you didn't want a greed where everybody dies. You wanted a good ending. And the
Mhm.
good ending for this one, honestly,
And it did
if
have
you
a happy ending, you know?
yeah, for 3 years or for 2 years until, we go to the General 2, which there is no General 2.
Yeah.
But, you go to the General 2, and it's used in the explosion of Atlanta, and Johnny
The
Gray gets
General
hanged.
2, I like that.
Johnny Gray gets hanged for his crimes against the Union,
And the general gets used to burn Atlanta, yeah.
yeah, yeah, maybe that one should have been the one starring Jackie Chan.
That could have been starring Jackie Chan, yeah.
Yeah, but man, just go watch it. There's so much more on this movie that, we would love to hear y'all's thoughts about it. I loved looking at it. No clue what we're looking at next, but we're probably gonna try to keep it in the same vein. I'd like to look at some more Keaton, look at some Charlie Chaplin, something like
Yeah.
that. But y'all let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see, and we will catch you on the next one. Will, take us out.
This has been Real Silent, where we keep it real and let the pictures do the talking.